Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the research vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the mysterious object slowly rotate against the backdrop of endless stars. The artifact had appeared on their long-range sensors 3 days ago, its composition unlike anything their databases had encountered before. "Dr. Morris, what's your latest analysis?" She called out to her chief scientist, who hadn't left his station since they'd first detected the anomaly. "It's definitely artificial, Captain," Morris replied, his eyes never leaving his holographic display. "The structure appears to be some kind of crystalline matrix, but it's alive, somehow. The energy patterns we're detecting suggest a form of consciousness." The object was roughly cylindrical, about the length of their ship, with a translucent surface that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Geometric patterns flowed across its surface like liquid mathematics, mesmerizing in their complexity. "Captain, we're detecting a change in the object's energy signature," Lieutenant Rivera announced from her tactical station. It's trying to communicate." The ship's primary display lit up with cascading patterns of light, forming into complex geometric shapes that pulsed with an almost musical rhythm. Dr. Morris's hands flew across his console, his expression one of wonder and concentration. "The universal translator is adapting," he said. "These patterns, they're not just random. They're a language based on pure mathematics." Suddenly, the geometric patterns coalesced into a coherent message. "We are the Sylphids. We require assistance. Our world dies." The bridge crew fell silent, the weight of first contact hanging heavy in the air. Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first looked up at the stars. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Use the same mathematical patterns they're sending us." The ship's AI began converting their response into the crystalline language. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth research vessel Horizon's Edge. We stand ready to assist." The artifact's response was immediate, its surface blazing with new patterns. "Our gratitude flows eternal. We have watched your species for many cycles, waiting for the right moment. You are different from the others we have encountered. You solve problems in ways we cannot understand, yet achieve results we could not predict." Sarah exchanged glances with her crew. "What do you mean, you've been watching us?" "We have observed 17 of your solar cycles. Your species possesses a quality we lack, an ability to see beyond established patterns, to imagine what has never been. This quality, we need it now more than ever." The artifact's surface shifted, revealing images of a distant star system. At its center, a dying star pulsed weakly, its light failing. Around it orbited a crystalline world that seemed to be made of the same material as the artifact itself. "This is our home," the message continued. "Our star fades faster than our calculations predicted. Traditional solutions have failed. We require imagination." Dr. Morris leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Captain, if they've been studying us for 17 years, they must have incredible technological capabilities. Why would they need our help?" Sarah studied the images of the dying star, a theory forming in her mind. "Because sometimes the most advanced civilization can become trapped by its own patterns of thinking. Sometimes you need an outside perspective, a human perspective." She stepped forward, addressing the artifact directly. "We'll help you. But first, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Can you share more detailed information about your star system and your civilization?" The artifact pulsed with what seemed like relief, its patterns becoming more intricate. "We will share all, but time grows short. Our star has less than one of your Earth years before critical failure. Will you come?" Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. This was why humanity had reached for the stars, not just to explore, but to make a difference in the universe. "We'll come," she replied, "and we'll bring everything that makes humanity unique with us. Send us the coordinates. We have a world to save." As the artifact began transmitting the location of the Sylphid homeworld, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be marked by conflict or fear, but by a chance to help, to solve an impossible problem, and to prove that sometimes the most valuable thing a species can offer isn't advanced technology, but a fresh way of looking at the universe. The Horizon's Edge emerged from its final FTL jump into the Sylphid system, and the bridge crew fell silent. The dying star hung before them like a dimming ember, its ruddy light casting an eerie glow across the crystalline world that orbited it. But it wasn't the star that held their attention. It was the fleet of crystal ships that surrounded their vessel, each one a masterpiece of geometric perfection. "Their technology is incredible," Dr. Morris whispered, his instruments struggling to analyze the alien vessels. "These ships aren't just built, they're grown. The entire fleet is a single interconnected consciousness. A familiar pattern of mathematical light cascaded across their main view screen as the Sylphids initiated contact. The ship's AI translated, 'Welcome, humans of Horizon's Edge. We are grateful for your swift arrival.' The largest of the crystal ships began to change shape, extending a crystalline docking tunnel that sparkled like diamond frost. Captain Chen watched in amazement as it perfectly matched their airlock specifications, information they hadn't even shared. "They really have been studying us," Lieutenant Rivera murmured. Sarah straightened her uniform. "Dr. Morris, Lieutenant Rivera, you're with me. Let's go meet our hosts." The docking tunnel was transparent, giving them a dizzying view of space as they crossed between ships. The alien vessel's interior was a cathedral of living crystal, with corridors that shifted and flowed around them as they walked. Their Sylphid hosts waited in what appeared to be a conference chamber. They were beings of pure crystal, roughly humanoid in shape, but with faceted surfaces that caught and reflected light in hypnotic patterns. Their bodies seemed to flow like liquid glass, yet maintained perfect geometric forms. "We are the consensus," the closest Sylphid communicated through patterns of light that the universal translator converted to speech. "I am designated Interface, tasked with facilitating our collaboration." Interface's crystalline form shifted, creating a three-dimensional hologram of their star system in the center of the chamber. "Our star, which you would call Epsilon Crystallis, has begun to collapse far ahead of its predicted life cycle. Our attempts to stabilize it have failed. We have perhaps 8 months before total failure." Dr. Morris stepped forward, studying the hologram intently. "What methods have you attempted?" The hologram shifted, showing various massive engineering projects the Sylphids had undertaken. Stellar scaffolding that would humble humanity's greatest achievements, energy collection systems that defied current physics models, even attempts to inject new fuel directly into the star's core. "All follow logical patterns," Interface explained. "All failed. We cannot see beyond our existing frameworks. Our species evolves through perfect iteration, building on established patterns, but this crisis requires something we cannot provide. Intuitive leaps, irrational connections, creative chaos. It requires humanity." Sarah studied the hologram, her mind racing. "Your civilization is built on crystal technology. Your ships, your world, even your bodies are crystalline matrices. What if that's not just your biology, but the key to saving your star?" Interface's form rippled with interest. "Explain." "On Earth, we use crystals to focus and amplify energy. They're crucial in everything from lasers to solar cells. Your entire civilization is essentially one massive crystal matrix. What if we could use your world itself as a lens, not to try to fix the star directly, but to amplify and redistribute its remaining energy more efficiently?" The Sylphids in the chamber vibrated in what might have been excitement or alarm. "Such an application is outside all established patterns," Interface communicated. "The energy requirements would be extreme. The risks to our world." "Sometimes survival requires risks," Sarah pressed. "Your world is dying anyway. But if we combine your crystal technology with human engineering principles, we might be able to buy enough time to implement a more permanent solution." Dr. Morris was already running calculations on his tablet. "The theory is sound, Captain. If we could create a resonance pattern through their planet's crystal matrix, we could theoretically establish a feedback loop with the star. It wouldn't stop the collapse, but it could slow it dramatically. But the stress on our world's structure would be unprecedented, Interface warned. A single miscalculation could shatter our entire civilization. Sarah met the crystalline being's gaze. Then we make sure we don't miscalculate. You have the most advanced computational abilities we've ever seen. We have the ability to think outside established patterns. Together, we might just be able to pull off the impossible. Interface was silent for a long moment, light patterns swirling within its form as it communicated with the consensus. Finally, it responded. The risk is great, but extinction is certain if we do not act. We accept your proposal, Captain Chen. Let us begin. As the human and Sylphid teams began their work, Sarah stared out at the dying star. They had one chance to save an entire civilization. The price of failure would be measured in billions of lives. The price of success, perhaps a fundamental change in how both species viewed the universe and each other. The next 2 weeks aboard the Sylphid command ship were a blur of activity. The massive vessel had been transformed into a joint operations center, with humans and crystalline beings working side by side in an unprecedented collaboration. Dr. Morris had taken to calling it Project Prism, and the name had stuck. Sarah watched from the central platform as holographic models swirled around them, showing simulations of their planned resonance matrix. The Sylphids had converted an entire section of their ship into a lab that could interface with human technology, creating hybrid systems that neither species could have developed alone. The latest simulation shows a critical flaw in the southern hemisphere grid, Dr. Morris announced, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease. His fingers danced through the light, adjusting variables that the Sylphids had taught them to understand. If we initiate the resonance cascade with these settings, we'll lose that entire continental plate. Interface flowed forward, its crystalline form refracting the hologram's light in complex patterns. Our traditional models cannot account for these chaotic variables. The crystal matrices that form our world were grown over millions of years in perfect geometric patterns. What you propose would introduce imperfection. Imperfection is exactly what we need, Lieutenant Rivera interjected. She had been working closely with the Sylphid engineering teams, her practical experience complementing their theoretical knowledge. Look at how Earth's magnetic field works. It's not perfect, but those very irregularities are what make it so effective at protecting our planet. Sarah noticed something in the simulation. What if we didn't try to maintain the perfect crystalline structure? What if we deliberately introduced controlled irregularities, like pressure points in a diamond? The Sylphid engineers vibrated with what she had learned to recognize as distress. The idea of deliberately creating imperfections in their world's crystal matrix went against everything they believed in. But Interface moved closer to the hologram, studying the concept. Fascinating, it communicated. You suggest using chaos to create stability. This is difficult for us to process, yet your Earth's geology demonstrates the principle. Natural systems often find strength in apparent disorder. Dr. Morris was already updating the simulations. If we create these disruption points here, and here, he indicated spots on the holographic globe, we can actually strengthen the overall matrix while allowing for the energy flexing we need. Like installing shock absorbers, Rivera added. The imperfections would act as pressure release valves, preventing catastrophic failure under stress. The human and Sylphid teams worked through the night, refining the plan. The Sylphid's perfect mathematical models were combined with human intuition and Earth's natural principles. Slowly, a workable solution began to emerge. There's still one problem, Sarah pointed out as they reviewed the final simulations. The energy requirements for initiating the resonance cascade are massive. Even with your entire civilization's power grid, we're still coming up short. Interfaces form, pulsed with thoughtful light patterns. Perhaps we have been too perfect in our thinking even now. Our power systems are based on absolute efficiency, perfect transmission. But you humans have shown us that sometimes power can come from unexpected sources. The crystalline being turned to Dr. Morris. Your earlier scans of our ships noted something that we had never considered significant. When our crystal matrices vibrate with emotion, they generate energy we had always dismissed as waste. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. The power of consciousness itself. Your entire civilization is one giant crystal matrix, and every sylphid is connected to it. If you could all focus your consciousness at once, the emotional energy release would be unprecedented. Interface confirmed. It would be dangerous. We would be introducing chaos into the very foundation of our society. But perhaps that is exactly what we need. The human crew exchanged glances. They had come seeking to help save a civilization through technology. But now they were talking about fundamentally changing how an entire species thought about itself. Are your people ready for that kind of change? Sarah asked softly. Interface's form shimmered with complex patterns. We must be. Your humanity has shown us that evolution is not always about perfecting existing patterns. Sometimes it requires breaking them entirely to create something new. As the teams finalized their preparations, Sarah couldn't help but feel they were standing on the brink of something momentous. They weren't just trying to save a star system anymore. They were about to witness the transformation of an entire civilization. Begin final preparations, she ordered. We'll need every human on board to help coordinate the power transfer. And, she turned to Interface, we'll need every sylphid ready to embrace imperfection. The crystalline being's response held a note of what might have been humor. Captain Chen, thanks to your species, we are learning that imperfection might be the most perfect solution of all. The day of reckoning arrived with the dying star's light casting long shadows across the crystalline world below. The horizon's edge had taken position at one of the resonance points in high orbit, its human crew working in perfect synchronization, with the sylphid vessels surrounding them. All resonance nodes are in position. Lieutenant Rivera reported from her station. The main view screen showed a network of crystalline satellites they had positioned around the planet, each one grown from the same living crystal as the sylphid ships. Power grid synchronization at 98%. Sarah stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the final pieces of their plan fell into place. Interface's form shimmered beside her, its crystalline surface reflecting the red light of their failing sun. The consensus is ready, Interface communicated. All sylphids across the planet are preparing for the consciousness merge. We have never attempted anything of this scale before. Dr. Morris looked up from his console, his face grave. Captain, the star's core is showing signs of accelerated decay. We need to act within the next hour, or we'll lose our window. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. Begin the initialization sequence. Interface, signal your people to start the consciousness merge. The effect was immediate and stunning. The entire crystalline world below began to glow with an inner light as billions of sylphid minds joined together in a single unified purpose. The energy readings on the bridge's instruments spiked dramatically. Emotional energy output exceeding all projections, Dr. Morris reported, his voice filled with wonder. The crystal matrix is amplifying it exponentially. Initiating resonance cascade, Rivera announced, her hands moving across her console with practiced precision. Power transfer beginning in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as energy began flowing through the network of satellites. The crystalline world below pulsed with light, its surface beginning to shift as the introduced imperfections created new patterns in its ancient structure. Matrix stability at 80%. Dr. Morris called out. 75%. Holding. Interface's form flickered with strain. The consciousness merge is difficult to maintain. Some are resisting the chaos, trying to return to perfect patterns. Sarah turned to the main view screen. Open a channel to the planet. Let me speak to all of them. The channel opened, and Sarah took a deep breath. People of the crystal world, this is Captain Chen. I know what we're asking of you goes against everything you believe in. Perfect order has been your way of life for millennia. But look at the universe around you. It's not built on perfection. It's built on adaptation, on change, on the beauty of imperfection. She gestured to the dying star. Your son's death isn't just a crisis. It's an opportunity. An opportunity to evolve, to become something new. Something that combines your perfect harmony with the strength of chaos. Don't fight the change. Embrace it. Let it flow through you like light through a prism, creating new patterns, new possibilities. The energy readings began to stabilize as her words reached the sylphid consciousness. The planet's glow steadied, taking on a rainbow hue as the new crystal patterns began to form. Matrix stability improving, Dr. Morris reported. Energy transfer reaching critical threshold. The space around them seemed to bend as the immense power of billions of unified minds was channeled through the planetary crystal matrix. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the resonance nodes, connecting with the dying star in a web of light. Star core temperature stabilizing, Rivera announced. Decay rate dropping. It's working. But victory was not yet assured. The ship's sensors screamed warnings as power surges began overwhelming some of the resonance nodes. The crystal matrix of the planet groaned under the strain, new fractures appearing in its surface. We're losing coherence in the southern grid, Morris shouted. The power fluctuations are too extreme. Interfaces form, pulsed rapidly. The consciousness merge is fragmenting. The chaos. It's too much for some to bear. Sarah gripped her command chair. Reroute power through the northern grid. Interface. Tell your people to focus on the new patterns forming. Don't try to control them. Flow with them, like water finding its own path. The next few minutes were tense as human and sylphid worked to stabilize the cascade. The planet's surface continued to shift and change, but now the changes had a rhythm to them, like a heartbeat. The new patterns weren't perfect, but they were strong. Star core stabilizing, Morris reported, his voice filled with disbelief. The resonance matrix is holding. The energy distribution is. It's better than our models predicted. Interfaces form brightened. The consensus reports success. The new patterns, they are unlike anything we have ever experienced. Our world is changing, becoming something new, something stronger. As they watched, the dying star's light began to steady, its angry red glow softening to a warm orange. The crystalline world below had been transformed, its once perfect geometric surface, now a stunning array of organic patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid light. "We did it," Sarah whispered. Then louder, "We did it." But as the celebration began, she knew this was more than just a technological victory. They had just witnessed, and helped create, the evolution of an entire civilization. The sylphids would never be the same, and perhaps humanity wouldn't either. 3 months after the successful stabilization of the sylphid star, the horizon's edge prepared for its journey home. The crystalline world below bore little resemblance to the geometrically perfect sphere they had first encountered. Its surface now rippled with organic patterns, the entire planet pulsing with a new kind of life that merged order and chaos in beautiful harmony. Sarah stood in the observation deck, watching teams of humans and sylphids working together on the surface through the high-powered viewers. The transformation of the sylphid civilization had been far more profound than anyone had anticipated. The changes extend far beyond the physical, Interface said, flowing into form beside her. The crystalline being's own structure had evolved, now incorporating subtle curves and organic patterns alongside its geometric foundations. Our consciousness has expanded in ways we never imagined possible. Dr. Morris approached, carrying his latest research data. The emotional energy network you've developed is revolutionary. You're not just using it to stabilize your star anymore. You're using it to power your entire civilization more efficiently than before. And with far greater flexibility, Interface agreed. By embracing imperfection, we have discovered new forms of perfection. Our ships can now adapt to situations we never could have handled before. Our crystal matrices grow and evolve rather than simply replicate. Sarah smiled, remembering the initial resistance to change. Your people have come a long way from fearing chaos. Thanks to humanity, Interface's form shimmered with what she now recognized as amusement. We have learned that true strength lies not in rigid perfection, but in the ability to adapt and grow. Which is why the consensus has reached a decision we wish to share with you. A holographic display materialized between them, showing a vast network of crystalline structures extending through space. We propose an alliance between our peoples. We offer to help humanity establish a network of crystal-based communication and transport nodes throughout your explored space. In return, we ask for continued cultural exchange. For humans to keep teaching us how to think beyond established patterns. Sarah's eyes widened at the implications. The technological benefits alone would advance human space exploration by centuries. But the cultural impact would be even more significant. That's an incredibly generous offer. It is a practical one, Interface corrected. Our civilization nearly ended because we could not think beyond our limitations. We do not wish to make that mistake again. Besides, its form rippled with multiple colors. We find human chaos refreshing. Lieutenant Rivera joined them, carrying a crystal that pulsed with a soft inner light. The first prototype of the human self-id hybrid communicator, she explained. It can interface with both our technology and the Sylphid consciousness network. Once we establish the first nodes in Earth's system, instantaneous communication across light years will be possible. More than that, Interface added, these nodes will serve as anchors for our new crystal drive system. Space travel between networked systems will be reduced from years to days. Sarah touched the crystal, feeling a faint resonance with the energy flowing through it. All this because we were willing to help when asked, and you were willing to change when necessary. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson we have learned from humanity, Interface mused, that the strongest connections are not built on perfect compatibility, but on the willingness to adapt for each other. Our differences do not divide us. They make us stronger together. As the final preparations for departure were made, Sarah looked out at the transformed world one last time. The dying star now burned steady and strong, its light refracting through the crystalline planet in ways that created spectacular auroras in space. But more beautiful than the light show was what it represented: two vastly different species learning from each other, growing together, and creating something entirely new in the process. Send word to Earth, she told Rivera. Tell them to prepare for some big changes. The universe just got a lot more interesting. Interface's form brightened, and a lot less perfect. Exactly, Sarah laughed. And that's what makes it beautiful. As the Horizon's Edge began its journey home, Sarah knew they were carrying more than just new technology and diplomatic agreements. They were carrying proof that the greatest achievements come not from perfection, but from the willingness to embrace change, to learn from differences, and to find strength in the beautiful chaos of cooperation. The stars streaked past their viewport as they entered FTL, but now they seemed different. Not cold, distant points of light, but bridges between civilizations, each one a potential connection waiting to be made. Humanity had repaid their debt to the Sylphids, not just by saving their world, but by helping them evolve. In return, they had gained not just allies, but partners in the greatest adventure of all, discovering what they could become together.